Okay, I had to re-record over this because the audio was like off by like 2 minutes, and that is no good. Um, so I'm gonna try to remember what I recorded here. Basically, I just touched up the skinning a little bit since then. And start animating, just go to the top there, and where we selected UV editor in the past, just go to animation this time. Then you're just going to want to clean up this area a bit. You don't really need both of these, so just slide it down. And then instead of dope sheet, go to action editor. And I just fixed it up a little bit here. Fucking Skype noises. Okay, so so now we're just going to start posing the bones, and to save the position, we're just gonna well, you'll see. So I didn't really know what kind of animation to make here. But you will be able to make multiple using the action editor, which is pretty nice there. So, so for now, just press new or the plus, and then just start on a new one here as your first animation. For this one, like I said, I just put whatever in there. So you're gonna want to start at 0, obviously, because starting from the beginning of the animation. And now I just went ahead and started posing. I wasn't sure what animation to make, so I just made something. Okay, so once I was pleased with that pose, I went ahead and just select everything with A, and then to actually add it as a frame for your animation, just press I, and then save by location and rotation. Normally I do location, rotation, scale because I'll scale things sometimes, but for a simple animation, all you need to save is the location and rotation. It's just called locrot, or whatever, LOCROT. So now you get all these little dots, and that just shows where it's basically like a saved location and rotation of each bone. You can edit them and change where they are on your keyframes or delete some. It's very intuitive. It's pretty nice how in-depth the animation here is. So now I'm starting on my next frame of animation. And I'm saving this one. Just a small change, nothing too crazy. And I decided that I wanted to loop this one. So to loop it, we need to end the animation on the similar pose of the first one so that it loops. And so all you have to do is press K after you select a part, and I just duplicated it with Shift D and moved it towards the end. And now I'm changing, on the timeline, changing it so that it ends just before the frame that the very last frame ends on. And then I just press play so we can view the animation. And I didn't particularly like how slow that was, so I selected everything with A and used S to scale it down so that the frames are closer together. And then I just moved it so that the first frame started at 0 again. And generally when you're animating, if something doesn't look right, like if you've done everything to make it look as natural as possible, sometimes speeding up the animation, and that is a trick to get more realistic movement, just speeding it up a little bit. And I'm showing with the shading on. And you can toggle on and off the bones as well, so you can get a better view of what you're looking at. And I still didn't like how slow this was, so I made it just a little bit faster again. And every time you change the length of it, you should change it on the timeline so that it ends either on or just before the frame where your animation ends. So I liked that. I thought that looked a lot better. But the animation is still kind of weird because we only have these few bones moving. And realistically, even when you're moving just a little part of your body, like if you raise your arm right now, you'll feel every part of your body move. And so animation should reflect that. So no matter what, the more realistic your animation that you want it to look, or if you want your animation to look more realistic, every bone should be moving when you make an action. So what I'm doing is I'm going in, and for this middle frame, I'm just going to adjust the body just a little bit. And part of adjusting the body, and I do this for most animation, just change the middle, or just change all the bones that don't seem to move. And then I do have to go in and adjust the feet, so I'll probably speed through me adjusting the feet so that they don't slide during animation as much, which you can see that they do here. And you just have to press I again once you change your animation to save it. Because once you change it and you don't add it as a keyframe, the old bone rotations don't save. So make sure any changes that you make, you press I and save over your last keyframe. And if you do change something using your kinetic bone here, make sure that you save the entire limb that it's changing, because otherwise it'll just save the rotation of the kinetic bone. You want to make sure that you save the entire limb every time you change the frames. So now the animation looks a lot more realistic, with the whole body moving in unison. But we do have a the weird effect of having all of our bones kind of moving together. So the tail bobbing with the head does look a little bit strange. So having animations not entirely sync up and move together, having body parts move at a different rate, does kind of give it another sense of realism. And so here I changed the animation. I just changed the animation of the tail, and I was going to delete it and redo it, but I decided instead to just move them all. And to select across all skeletons, just select the keys and then press L, and you'll select across the line. And I have no idea what that one key is doing there after I move those bones. So I just went in and deleted it. And because the animation loops, I make sure that it ends and starts on the exact same frame. So I duplicated to make sure that it does. And so there it is. Looks a little bit better. And it does help to look at the animation of your bones, or the animation in general, from all angles, just like how you would when you're modeling. Because a lot of people have they make animations facing forward, they just animate directly from the right, and you don't want that. So adding just a tiny bit of asymmetry to the animation, where you see here I just moved the head slightly to the side, it does give it a little bit of just a slight more, I guess, natural movement to it. Because when you move, you don't move perfectly, right in front of you and behind you. You do move things slightly to the right. You grab things, you're grabbing at an angle, things like that. And to change the bones here, because our tail bones are now operating in a different rate, you can select only the bones that you want to add a keyframe for, so that you don't accidentally add a keyframe over the bones where the bones that you don't want it, like the tail here, for instance. And for the very last little animation tip here, I add these things. I'm not sure what I would call them, or what they're actually called, but I guess I call them a hitch. Kind of like a slight change in motion, I suppose, so that the motions aren't symmetrical. Like the jaw opening and closing it opens and closes at the exact same rate, and realistically they wouldn't. It would either open its mouth a little bit faster or close its mouth a little bit faster. And you can see me experimenting with a quicker a quicker opening or quicker closing mouth and a quicker opening mouth. And I ended up liking the quicker closing mouth a lot more. So now the crocodile opens his mouth up, snaps, and then it closes. So that's the gist of making one animation here. So you're free to try and do whatever you would like to. I will show you how to make more complex animations in the next video. So I almost forgot to go over the action editor a little bit more here. So you can see there's a list of all your animations, so you can make more than one and have more than one animation for each one. You can always go back and change the names of these as well. And do keep in mind that when you start an animation, it will copy the first animation. So you can just go ahead and delete, and making sure that you're in the new animation you created. And when you do delete, it does pull you out of the animation. So then when you try to add a new frame, it creates a whole new animation for you instead of putting the animation in the clip that you meant to put it in. So make sure that you select the one that you wanted to go to. So just basically be a little bit careful with these. It does get a little bit confusing. There's no way for you to overwrite the animation so long as you make sure that you are selecting the right thing. So